reading multiple choice single answer tips and tricks. Let's have a look at some useful tips and tricks for this question type. First of all, learn to read. Learn how to skim, learn how to scan. As I said earlier, your reading, it has to be with a purpose. This is a test of your academic English skills. So you always have to have some goal in mind when you start reading a text in reading questions. And to do that, you need to learn these two techniques, skim and scan, that we discussed in the reading masterclass, and then practice them when you are answering these questions. So this is like a foundational thing. It will help you a lot. The next tip, follow the process. A lot of people, they panic in the reading comprehension questions. Why they panic? They panic because they think the time is running out. They feel they need to read the whole text and understand it. And while trying to read it word by word, as the time runs out, they start panicking, or they're not able to identify the correct option because they just look at all the options at once, or they may end up making a mistake because they haven't understood the question in the first instance. So don't do that. There is a method for a reason that we teach. Follow the steps of that method. If you do that, if you practice within the time constraints, you set your time, you try to do the steps within that time frame, then you won't find yourself in a situation where you need to hurry up or where you panic. So follow the process. That's read the question first, then skim to get an overall idea, then scan to identify the area to focus, validate all options. To do that, you again might have to scan the text, but make sure you validate all options and only then you submit your correct answer. So stick to the process. Don't be in a situation that you have to hurry up. Don't assume anything. Now, whether it's mentioned in the question prompt or not, your answer should always be on the basis of the information that is given in the text. If, let's say, it's a question on economy and you have a master's degree in economics and you already think that you know the answer to the question, but still keep your knowledge aside, read the text and then answer just on the basis of that. Because often the text might have an aspect of that particular topic which is contradictory to what you already know. And even if what's written in the text is against what you think is correct, you read it in another book or you read it in newspaper or somewhere, still your answer should be only on the basis of the text. So don't use any outside knowledge or make any assumptions. Make sure that the option that you pick is only on the basis of the given text. Next, don't jump to any conclusions. So verify all parts of the question. Sometimes the question prompt in itself, it's a bit complicated, not straightforward. So you must make sure that the option, it meets everything that the question has asked you to. So for example, if the question is, which of the following countries had the highest GDP in 1970? So you see, there are two parts to this now. First, you need to find the country which has the highest GDP, but you also have to make their judgment limited to the time period 1970. And now in the text, maybe there's a discussion of how the GDPs of different countries have changed in different years. So if you jump to conclusions, you might pick the option from, let's say, the ranking of the countries in 1980s, but the question was specifically limited to 1970s. So understand all parts of the questions and focus on, make sure the option that you pick satisfies all those parts. And as you said earlier, you have to read all options. Even if you think option A is the best, you still must go ahead and validate option B, C, and D. The next tip, and this is very important, look for similarities. Look for synonyms and words that have similar meaning, and don't just do a word match. I've been repeating this when we discussed that example also. You could see that in the example. So if you just restrict yourself to a word match, first of all, you might not find the exact word match. Therefore, you should look for synonyms and similar meanings. And even if you find a word match and when you find a synonym or similar meaning, still your judgment should be based on an understanding of the entire context. Don't just think that just because the words have matched, this is the correct option. No, validate the options properly. The next, keep moving. Don't spend too much time on any one question. This is a multiple choice single option. So there's no negative marking here. If you don't answer, you'll still get a 0 if you answer a wrong. If you pick a wrong option, you'll still only get a 0. So first, don't spend too much time. If you, during your practice, you determine before the exam that for multiple choice single option, I'm going to spend 1 minute 30 seconds and not more than that on one question, then just spend 1 minute 30 seconds. If by that time you've not been able to pick one option with confidence, then make your best guess. Do that and move on. And this will happen. This will happen when you have prepared your time strategy beforehand. So as I'm saying, your practice, the days before exam and the time that you spend practicing, preparing for the exam is very important. It's not only to familiarize yourself with the questions, it's also to prepare your strategies. How I'm going to handle a particular question, to get used to those methods, to get used to answering those questions in those time constraints. So do not ignore the time. Do all these things beforehand before you go to the exam. All right, so those are the tips and tricks. Keep these in mind. They will make it easier for you to pick the best option, and they will also help you to avoid some silly mistakes.